Does he know y'all have this in the doc?
I would doubt he knows.
So when this airs, that'll be the first time that his legal team, Diddy, that everybody knows that this footage is now seeing the light of day. One could watch this and think that you really hate Sean Combs.
If Sean Combs watches this, what do you think he's going to feel?
Like, wow, this is amazing. I think he's going to say this is the best documentary I've seen in a long time.
Janice Combs, how you feel about her? I mean, they alleging that she was, having freak-off.
I spoke to a man, Mr. Brown, who used to go to the freak-offs. And he knew Miss Combs and he knew about her and her freak-offs and everything like that. We had always thought that she had a modeling agency, but it wasn't a modeling agency. It was more a brothel that she ran for high-profile drug dealers and
50 Cent is shaking the industry once again, announcing that season 2 of his explosive documentary, Diddy, The Reckoning, is officially in the works. This time, the spotlight turns to Janice Combs, the woman many believe is the true power behind the empire. Insiders reveal there is never-before-seen footage so controversial that major platforms reportedly hesitated to air it during season 1. But 50 Cent isn't waiting on anyone. He's preparing to drop the most explosive material yet directly on YouTube, with promises of revelations that could completely change how the world views Bad Boy's legacy forever.
Yeah, my mom's good. Well, let me introduce you to my mom, called Mom Dukes.
Hi.
She's getting a drip with me. She's hydrating. What's up, Mom?
Everything's good, baby. I'll be with you.
Yeah.
I love you.
I love you, too.
The story traces back to Sean Diddy Combs' earliest days. In the documentary, his childhood friend Tim Patterson reflects on the moment everything changed, when Diddy's father, a well-known Harlem figure, was tragically killed while Diddy was still a toddler. From that point on, his mother Janice Combs took the reins. Determined and fiercely protective, she transformed their home into a gathering place for influential figures, where conversations about power, reputation, and survival filled the air night after night. Those late-night gatherings became Diddy's first real window into a world driven by status and street credibility. And according to those who grew up in the neighborhood, what went on behind those closed doors was never really a secret.
Finna her son, man, how you feel about that? She made a comment saying that he's not a monster.
I guess this is my newfound career, so I'm gonna say what on my mind and what I think, brother. First of all, that's his mother. Wrong, right, or indifferent, she gonna lie, steal, kill, and protect her child. That's what she's supposed to do. But the apple don't fall far from the tree, man. You gotta realize that. You know, he didn't get all this from his daddy because he didn't know his daddy, even though they try to say his daddy was some big time drug dealer in the whole 9 yards. You understand? He didn't get this from his daddy. You gotta realize, man, you know, his mother had a modeling agency, and it was alleged that it was also Ladies of the Night, a prostitution ring too.
From the very beginning, Janice was portrayed as fiercely ambitious, determined to rise above her circumstances and secure influence within Harlem's competitive social scene. After Diddy's father passed away, that drive reportedly shifted toward one singular mission, shaping her son's future. In the documentary, childhood friend Tim Patterson describes a small stage set up right in their living room, a space where young Diddy would dance, perform, and command attention while the adults around him cheered him on, shouting, "Do that dance, baby." But those moments were far more than playful childhood performances. They were early lessons in charisma, spotlight, and the mechanics of influence, a crash course in how attention, image, and power intertwine. And then comes the claim that stops everything cold. When it was suggested that Janice Combs may have been the original architect behind what would later become known as the freak-offs, the internet collectively paused.
Said Diddy mother might be the originator of the freak-offs. All right, so tomorrow Peacock is dropping. According to the Rolling Stone, the doc features an alleged childhood friend of Puff's, hip-hop producer Tim Dog Patterson. He alleged that Janice, Diddy's mom, would often throw parties at Diddy's childhood home. He says that during the parties, it wasn't uncommon to walk into rooms where adults was having sex. I mean, that was just their normal. And the doc, when talking about the parties, Tim says, verbatim, "That's what we were privy to. This was what we were fed."
But as the story unfolds, a far more complex picture of Diddy's upbringing begins to surface. Those close to the family describe Janice as highly strategic, deeply intentional about how her son presented himself to the world. According to sources, including longtime associate Gondel, the bond between mother and son sometimes left observers unsettled, not because of distance, but because of how carefully she seemed to guide his understanding of attention, admiration, and influence. From an early age, Diddy wasn't simply being raised, he was being prepared. The lessons he absorbed about image, control, and commanding a room would later become the very foundation of his dominance in the music industry. Every performance, every interaction, every carefully crafted moment of charisma can be traced back to those early years under his mother's watchful and deliberate guidance. And now, sources reveal, the documentary is about to go even deeper, turning the spotlight directly onto what Janice herself allegedly introduced into that world.
That his mother could take her palms and bend over and put them down on the floor. Not bend over, but she could stand straight up and put her palms on the floor, bruh. He's saying that about his mother. Who describes any of their mother action like that in a sexual way? And then, you know, I don't know how many dudes do kiss their mother in their mouth when they 50, 60 years old or something like that. That's them, that's their whole thing, man. But that was a little kind of weird for me. And then his mother wore the same white fingernail polish that Cassie described that he liked to see her and other models in when she was describing her lawsuit. And what's crazy to me is that, man, it seemed like him and his mother had this, I don't want to get too deep, man, this Oedipus complex.
As Diddy's career exploded into global stardom, many observers began drawing striking parallels between the empire he built and the environment he grew up in. The high-profile parties, the carefully curated guest lists, the atmosphere of power, spectacle, and carefully controlled influence. To those paying close attention, it felt less like something new and more like a larger, glossier version of the scenes from his childhood home in Harlem. Reports and eyewitness accounts have claimed that Janice Combs was not only aware of these gatherings, but was occasionally present, standing just outside the spotlight. Whether as a quiet supporter or a guiding force behind the scenes, her presence only reinforced what critics and insiders had long suspected. The blueprint for Diddy's empire, many believe, had been drafted long before the fame ever arrived. And her early imprint, the lessons in image, power, and control, remained deeply woven into the culture he created, the parties he threw, and the world he ruled. What looked like Diddy's creation to the outside world may have simply been an inheritance.
She knew about the freakos.
Because one of the witnesses said she was there. And do you remember this, bro? Check it out. People tell off on themselves so much, man, and I don't understand when people don't catch it. Diddy has said this. He said, when I give a party, I have to have an ambulance outside of the house. Paramedics ready. That people have to take IVs. Remember the time that him and his mama kissed each other on the lips?
Yeah, I remember that video.
Do you remember that both of them was getting an IV at the same time?
Yeah, I did notice that, yep.
That's from the Diddy freak off party. And I'm gonna say allegedly.
So let me ask you this. You knowing her at one point, you knowing her personally, is she the kind of person that, you know, will be a part of a freak off or no?
I think that she liked to party and she partied with young people. She's always been like that. She always copied or emulated Little Kim and Mary J. Blige. Or they emulated her. The blonde hair, the nails, the high boots, the age-appropriate, inappropriate.
Gene Deal has spoken openly about what he describes as an unusually intense dynamic between Diddy and his mother. After Diddy's father passed away, Janice reportedly placed heavy expectations on her young son, encouraging him to step into a leadership role within the household far earlier than most children ever would. According to Deal, that early weight of responsibility created a bond that felt less like a typical mother-son relationship and more like something carefully managed and deliberately shaped over time. He claims Janice remained deeply involved in Diddy's personal and social circles long after childhood, offering guidance and quiet influence even as his career began to accelerate at full speed. In Deal's view, that constant, unwavering presence helped shape far more than just Diddy's decisions. It molded his mindset, his hunger, and the behaviors that would later define one of the most powerful and now most controversial rises in the history of the music industry. The question many are now asking is no longer just about what Diddy did, but about where it all truly began.
Relationship, whether it's physical or mental, with a mother and a son. So I'm looking at his mother and him on the couch, and both of them are getting IVs after one of the Diddy parties. Allegedly. I'm gonna say allegedly because I wasn't there and I didn't know, but they showed them both getting IVs on the couch. So my whole thing about this thing is that I'm not saying that she was ever at a freak off, she was ever at that type of party, but you can't tell me Miss Janice Combs, who was always at the regular parties, didn't know nothing about the freak off party.
According to various reports and allegations, Cassie is said to have described certain dynamics within the household as unusual and deeply unsettling. Sources claim that Janice's presence wasn't simply guidance offered from a distance. Her influence reportedly reached into nearly every aspect of Diddy's personal world, from unconventional family traditions to tightly managed social boundaries that left little room for outside perspectives. Those who witnessed it firsthand have characterized the environment as intense, controlled, and impossible to forget. Whether interpreted as fierce maternal protection or suffocating pressure, insiders suggest those formative experiences left a lasting imprint on Diddy, shaping his personality, his decision-making, and his need for control in ways few outsiders could ever fully grasp. And now, perhaps the most unsettling claim of all begins to emerge. Sources close to the situation allege that Diddy didn't just carry those early influences with him, he actively tried to recreate them. Those who knew him claim he made deliberate attempts to mold Missy into a reflection of his mother, mirroring the same dynamics, the same control, and the same carefully managed influence that had defined his upbringing. What was once framed as a mother's love may now be seen as the origin of a pattern.
The situation where they say he was trying to shape Misa into his mother. Can you see that? Like,
yeah, with the blonde hair and yeah, and all of that. I mean, somebody
really
asked the question, what kind of man puts his hands on his mother? The same kind of man that parties with his mom, the same kind of man who kisses his mom in the mouth, the same kind of man who seems to have accurate knowledge that his elderly mother can put both of her hands, her palms on the floor while she's standing up, bent over.
Oh damn, I ain't seen that one. Oh.
You never seen the Instagram video where he was talking about how his mom is still young and spry and how she still liked the party and how they was getting a IV drip?
Oh. Damn.
And she was kissing him in the mouth on the video. And he was like, yeah, my mom can bend over and touch the floor with her palms. It's a very, very, very weird relationship.
According to the accounts now being discussed, Sean Combs' early years unfolded in an environment that was anything but ordinary. Allegations suggest that while he was still a child, Janice Combs maintained an active and highly influential social circle operating directly out of their home, with a steady stream of visitors moving in and out under her careful direction. Those who claim to have witnessed it firsthand describe the atmosphere as something of an open secret, rarely questioned, but widely understood by everyone in the neighborhood. It was the kind of thing people saw, acknowledged quietly among themselves, and never spoke about openly. But young Diddy wasn't simply growing up around adults. He was watching, absorbing, and learning. He observed how relationships were managed. He studied how rooms were commanded. He took note of how influence was exercised, who held power, how it was wielded, and what it took to make people pay attention. Supporters and critics alike now argue that those early exposures played a far greater role than anyone previously acknowledged in shaping the razor-sharp, strategic mindset that would later fuel his rise and near-total dominance in the music industry. The empire, it seems, had its first classroom long before Bad Boy Records ever existed.
About, her. I mean, they alleging that she was, having freak-offs.
I spoke to a man, Mr. Brown, who used to go to the freak-offs. And this guy lives in Georgia right now. And he told me that he was a stick-up kid back in the day. And one time he had robbed one of their spots. And he went back and he had got the money and gave them their money back and everything like that. And he knew Miss Combs and he knew about her and her freak-offs and everything like that. We had always thought that she had a modeling agency, but it wasn't a modeling agency. It was more a brothel that she ran for high-profile drug dealers and athletes. You could tell by I could tell that Miss Combs at the time, and actually saw her like young guys. She came at me a couple of times back in my heyday, before the extra 75 pounds back then. And the reason I left Bad Boy wasn't only because of her advances. It's because I got tired of a lot of the bullshit.
Janice Combs has reportedly pushed back against the documentary's narrative, issuing statements that strongly deny the allegations being circulated. Yet what has truly ignited debate isn't simply the denial itself, it's what hasn't happened. Despite the explosive nature of the claims and the very real potential for lasting reputational damage, there has been no public legal action taken against 50 Cent or Netflix over the series. No lawsuit, no courtroom battle, no formal challenge. And that silence has become a storyline all its own. To many observers, silence in the face of such serious accusations doesn't signal innocence, it suggests strategy. It raises a question that critics continue to press with growing intensity. If the accusations are entirely unfounded, why not challenge them head-on and clear the record once and for all? Others have offered a more calculated explanation. They speculate that pursuing legal action could open the door to something far more dangerous than bad publicity, discovery processes, depositions, and evidence that neither side may want unfolding under oath in a very public courtroom. Sometimes the decision not to fight is the most telling move of all. In the court of public opinion, the absence of a legal response has only added fuel to an already raging fire, leaving the world to draw its own conclusions about what the silence truly means.
Combs is speaking out about the Netflix documentary, Sean Combs' The Reckoning. In a statement to Deadline, she said, "These inaccuracies regarding my son Sean's upbringing and family life are intentionally done to mislead viewers and to further harm our reputation." She also maintains she was not an parent and says that Diddy never slapped her, as previously stated in the document.
In the narrative now being widely circulated, Janice Combs is portrayed as far more than a supportive mother cheering from the sidelines. She is being framed as the original architect, the woman who introduced Sean Combs to the rules of power, influence, and business from the very beginning. Allegations suggest that even as Diddy became the unmistakable public face of Bad Boy Records, the star, the brand, the empire, true control of certain key assets may have quietly remained elsewhere, behind closed doors and away from the spotlight. Footage and interviews highlighted by 50 Cent paint Janice as a behind-the-scenes gatekeeper of extraordinary influence. Someone who allegedly managed finances, navigated crises, and protected the structure of the empire during its most volatile and turbulent periods, when everything could have collapsed but somehow never did. Some insiders go even further. They claim that critical documents and significant holdings were deliberately placed in her name as a strategic safeguard, a carefully calculated move designed to shield generational wealth, create legal distance, and preserve deniability if scrutiny ever intensified or federal eyes ever turned in their direction. In other words, while Diddy was the face of the empire, Janice may have been its vault.
You think it's Diddy, it's Janice Combs. Janice Combs is Bad Boy. Man. You don't actually sign to Diddy. His name is on a dotted line, but you actually sign it to Janice Combs.
Did he ever tell you why that is, or do you understand?
Oh, now that I'm older, I know exactly what it is. It's a paper trail, so nothing can come bite me. If you come for me, you ain't coming for me. I ain't got nothing. You going to my...
According to these claims, while Diddy remained the undeniable public face of the empire, Janice may have held substantial ownership quietly operating in the background, her name attached to assets the world never knew existed. And some point to a pivotal, tragic moment that may help explain exactly why. In December 1991, a celebrity charity basketball game organized by Diddy at the City College of New York spiraled into unimaginable chaos before it even truly began. Overcrowding led to a deadly stampede that claimed 9 lives, a catastrophic tragedy that sent shockwaves through the industry and through Diddy's rising career. Lawsuits followed, intense public scrutiny followed, and for many observers, that moment marked a sobering and permanent turning point. The brutal reality of fame had revealed itself in the most devastating way possible. When your name headlines the event, your name absorbs the fallout. Every lawsuit, every headline, every consequence. Seen through that lens, the alleged decision to place key assets under Janice's control takes on an entirely different meaning. It can no longer be interpreted as coincidence or simple family trust. It begins to look like calculated insulation, a deliberate structural safeguard designed to shield the empire's core wealth from the unpredictable storms that inevitably follow celebrity, influence, and public liability. Protect the name, protect the money, and make sure they are never fully attached to the same
in 2010s, Diddy was really prospering, music, business, fashion. And one of the things that he had said, what he alleged in the documentary, and again, this is an allegation from him, was that the name Bad Boy Entertainment, Combs's name was not really involved in that on the corporate side. And one of the things he's saying is the reason for that was to avoid having to pay any liability from, the devastating basketball game that had happened in the early 90s, where he was the subject of wrongful death lawsuits because of the multiple deaths that had occurred as a result of that basketball game that Diddy was behind organizing. So that was really, surprising to hear.
Yeah, that was a big allegation, because the families of the victims killed in that stampede, it was horrible. We're talking about December 28th, 1991. Combs, fellow rapper Heavy D, they hosted this charity basketball game. The game took place at the gymnasium of the City College of New York. And according to the New York Daily News, before the basketball game started, people who weren't let inside, they broke a window, swarmed toward the entrance of the gym, all went down a staircase. The doors at the bottom of those stairs opened towards the stairs, not towards the gym. So once a crowd got down there, they couldn't get the doors open and people started being crushed. 9 people died. Dozens of others were injured. And there were no criminal charges that were ever filed against anyone for the stampede, but multiple families and injured victims they filed.
According to Gene Deal, who has publicly claimed he witnessed the aftermath firsthand, responsibility for the tragedy ultimately traced back to leadership at the top. Deal argues that security measures were inadequate, crowd warnings went unheeded, and the disaster that unfolded was not unavoidable but preventable with stronger oversight and planning. In his view, it represented more than a tragic accident. It was a breakdown in accountability at the highest level of decision-making. Decades later, the incident is still cited by observers as a sobering example of how influence and ambition must be matched with responsibility, because when large-scale events are mismanaged, the consequences can be irreversible and devastating.
College. You understand? I was there. I was doing security. My team was supposed to have the outside. Puff came to me the day before we were supposed to do the job there and told me that Heavy D didn't want us to do the security outside. I had 18 men ready to do the security outside with my dogs like I always do. People knew how we used to roll. We would have the pits, the Rockwilders. You understand? We had that outside locked up. So anybody try to bum rush, anybody do that, we had the gates, the whole 9 yards. So we could stop all that. You know how people gonna get down in Harlem. You understand? So, and then when you got LL Cool J, you got Mike Tyson coming through there, and they coming through the front door so people see them. So they gonna go crazy. LL was the hottest thing out at that time. Mike Tyson was the hottest thing out at that time. They got all kinds of stars and people in there already. They was coming through the back. They came through the front. And it caused the door to be bum rushed. But if they had the gates up, if they had the dogs, and with the help of the police, that shit would have never happened, bro. That shit would have never happened. I was there, I saw it. I saw Jessica run down the steps after she grabbed the money box because my man Eddie was protecting her. And Eddie's the one called me on the walkie-talkie and said, yo, Jessica just locked me in outside the gym, Gene. You couldn't go down the steps after they bum rushed the door. You understand? I had to run around the whole gym on the outside, around the gym, down the steps, run across the basketball court, and open the front door. When I opened that one door, because it pushed inside, people start squeezing through that. Then I just kept doing the doors, and people was coming in there, falling dead, right out, just falling out right there. And once they got in there, they just fell out. It was crazy, bro. You know, he just wanted us to do inside the gym to make sure that nobody, you know, be over the celebrities like that. That's what he wanted my team to do. But most of the celebrities gonna have their own security anyway. You know what I'm saying? That was just a way to cut our security off anyway. So he cut the security and he got the FOIs, and the FOIs left their post, and that's how the people bum rushed the door, and 9 people died by going down those corridors.
And you blame Diddy for that?
Yeah, I do. It's his fault.
According to Gene Deal, who has publicly claimed he witnessed the aftermath firsthand, responsibility for the tragedy ultimately traced back to leadership at the very top. Deal argues that security measures were wholly inadequate, that crowd warnings went unheeded, and that the disaster which unfolded that night was not unavoidable, it was preventable. With stronger oversight, better planning, and more responsible decision-making, 9 people would have gone home alive. In his view, the stampede represented something far greater than a tragic accident born of chaos. It was a fundamental breakdown in accountability at the highest level, a moment where ambition outpaced responsibility, and ordinary people paid the ultimate price. Decades later, the incident is still cited by observers, journalists, and industry insiders as one of the most sobering examples of what happens when influence and ambition are not matched with genuine responsibility. Because when those at the top make decisions that affect thousands of lives, the margin for error disappears entirely. And when large-scale events are mismanaged, whether through negligence, arrogance, or willful blindness, the consequences don't simply fade with time. They become permanent, they become irreversible, and for 9 families, they became devastating beyond measure.
I know the freak-offs, that his son is there. Like, it seems like he likes to get down with his kids.
Yeah. But that wasn't all. Just to hear Little Rod say, like, the boys were around. Roger Bonds talked about the children as well. What kind of parenting relationship is that? But then again, that goes back to the conversation of Lori Harvey, Steve Harvey's daughter. It was all known that she was spotted in them streets with Justin, and then she was spotted in them streets with Diddy, and they all tried to sit there and pretend like that wasn't what it was. Like, I don't know if anybody has not noticed, but ever since Diddy got pinched, they've all been trying to pretend like all of the stuff that we've seen that happened, that they was all involved and didn't happen.
Overnight, lawyers for Sean Diddy Combs trying to stop the release of a Netflix docuseries due out today.
We have to find somebody that'll work with us that has dealt in the dirtiest of dirty business.
The series contains never-before-seen footage of Combs debating strategy with his lawyers in the days leading up to his arrest in New York last year.
I am going to let you professionals look at the situation and come back to me with a solution.
It also includes video of Combs greeting fans in Harlem.
Off my back. Lord, you win. I'm gonna win. Lord, you win. Be with it. I'll accept it.
And then saying this about the interaction moments later.
I need some hand sanitizer. Hold on. I got it. I've been out in the streets amongst the people. Yeah, I gotta take a bath. Like the amount of people that actually I'm coming in contact with, like that's what I have to do. You know what I'm saying? It's like 150 hugs.
Now Combs' lawyers are demanding Netflix pull the series, threatening legal action, claiming Netflix is using stolen footage that was never authorized for release as part of what they call a shameful hit piece. The series is executive produced by Combs' longtime rival, Curtis 50 Cent Jackson, and director Alex Stapleton, who said, quote, "We obtained the footage legally and have the necessary rights," end quote. Before the cease and desist demand was sent yesterday, Stapleton and Jackson sat down with our Robin Roberts to discuss the series.
How do you respond to people who say that it's more about the disdain that you have for Sean Combs than it is for giving the victims a platform?
It's not personal.
The show is not completely the perspectives of people that did not like Sean. Not everyone needed to have an allegation to be a part of.
The relationship between Diddy and his mother has long been described as exceptionally close, a bond forged early through loss, ambition, and survival. But what draws the most intense attention now is how observers believe that dynamic quietly echoed throughout every chapter of his later life. As his influence, wealth, and authority grew to staggering levels, critics began noticing something that felt less like coincidence and more like a blueprint being followed. Familiar patterns started surfacing, in the way he structured his inner circle, in the loyalty he demanded, and in the environment he created around his own family. To those carefully analyzing his rise, none of it appeared random. It appeared reflective. The early lessons absorbed in that Harlem household about loyalty, control, image, and hierarchy seemed to have quietly carried forward into adulthood, shaping the boundaries he set, the expectations he enforced, and the culture he built around himself at every level of his empire. Whether viewed as mentorship or imprinting, as guidance or conditioning, many who study his trajectory now see it through the same lens, a cycle. Formative influences absorbed in childhood, reverberating outward decade after decade, ultimately finding their fullest expression in the empire he built and the world he controlled. The foundation, it appears, was laid long before the first record ever dropped.
Sons Justin and Christian are teasing a new docuseries about their family. Justin and Christian King Combs appear in a new trailer released December 28th to Instagram by Zeus Network's founder. In the trailer, Justin and Christian sit on a couch in a screening room while a series of headlines about their father cycle on screen. At the end of the trailer, Justin's phone vibrates and he answers a collect call from the Fort Dix Federal Correctional Institute, where Combs is currently behind bars. No release date for the docuseries is given, though the teaser says viewers can expect it at some point in 2026. Combs shares Justin with ex-Misa Hilton and Christian with the late Kim Porter. The rapper is also dad to 34-year-old son Quincy and daughters Chance, 19, twins Delilah and Jesse, also 19, and Love, who is 3 years old. Combs was transferred to Fort Dix from the Metropolitan Detention Center in New York in late October after he was sentenced to 50 months in prison on related convictions.
Zeus Network has a new Diddy documentary coming out, and this time it is coming from the perspective of Diddy and his sons. All the time I thought we were about to leave Diddy in 2025. Well, this documentary is coming in 2026. And a lot of people, just like myself, are already not feeling this new documentary coming from Diddy's sons. A lot of people aren't happy about it and actually shocked that the owner of Zeus Network, Lemmy, is doing this Diddy documentary. But what a lot of people fail to forget is Lemmy and Diddy have been friends for quite some time.
Of his children arriving in court for day one of their father's trial in New York, hands gripped in solidarity.
Do you still believe your dad's innocent? How did you feel hearing that testimony? Do you apologize on behalf of your father? Do you believe your father's innocent? Do you still convince your father's innocent? Your daddy does for you! Your daddy does for you for abusing women! That's wrong! You think that's wrong?
The foes, the joy, the pain, our voice, the loyalty, the betrayal, the highs, the lows, the love, the hate, the truth, the lies. And Diddy calling from Fort Dix.
This is a prepaid collect call from Federal Correctional Institution, Fort Dix.
When they released this trailer last night, there were so many comments to Lemmy and Zeus Network that they did not want to see this. A lot of people feel like this whole new documentary is just a PR narrative once again being pushed by Diddy and his sons to try to clean up his image. And after hearing certain things on 50 Cent's Netflix documentary, we have to go back in time and remember what we were seeing during trial. Even when it came to Diddy's sons, Christian and Justin Combs, they both came on two separate occasions to trial wearing a free Sean Combs shirt. The first one to do this was Christian Combs during Jane's testimony, and you're not supposed to wear this stuff in front of a jury to try to sway their opinions. And the judge actually told him he had to leave and take it off. And then literally like a week later, Justin did the same exact thing. It was taken out of the courtroom by the judge. And we already saw the videos in the Netflix doc of Diddy talking to Justin saying he needed to push out certain content to control a narrative. During the trial, there were a lot of things going on that I could see that to me felt like it was just straight PR. Do you remember all of these people that were wearing the free Diddy shirts? And it was actually a meme coin that's on their.
When public figures face explosive controversy, the typical response follows a well-worn playbook: swift legal action, cease and desist letters, aggressive denials, and carefully orchestrated damage control. Teams of lawyers and publicists mobilize within hours, working to contain the narrative before it spreads further. But Diddy has chosen a different route entirely. Rather than leaning solely on legal muscle, he has opted to tell his side of the story through his own documentary, asserting his innocence, reframing the narrative, and attempting to take back control of a story that has largely been told without him. Critics, however, argue that this strategy comes with a significant and unavoidable risk. It doesn't erase anything. The existing footage, the interviews, the allegations, and the evidence already circulating in the public domain remain exactly where they are. If anything, stepping into the spotlight to respond only intensifies the scrutiny, drawing more eyes, inviting deeper comparisons, and raising harder questions. And now the family's counter-narrative is expanding even further. Justin and Christian Combs, Diddy's sons, are reportedly teasing their own documentary series about the family, stepping forward to offer what they describe as a more complete and personal picture of who the Combs family truly is. But in a story already this complex, the question isn't whether the world will watch. It's whether another documentary can change what people already.
As expected, 50 Cent caught wind of it hitting the news, hitting the blogs, and being on the timeline yesterday that Diddy's sons, Sean and Justin, will be dropping a docuseries of their own to tell their side of the story, their experiences, and how they view things on the Zeus Network. Well, 50 Cent put it up on his Instagram page, and he promoted the trailer where you look at it from the other side of it on the marketing side, but he knows it plays back into the doc that he just dropped as well with the reckoning. He put it up and said, wow, I want to see this show. I'm not sure this was a good idea. And he tagged at 50 Cent Action, letting it be known that this is real.
And in what many are calling one of the more bizarre footnotes to an already surreal story, the shirts worn by Justin and Christian in their teaser weren't simply a family statement. Sharp-eyed viewers quickly noticed that what appeared on their clothing was actually a meme coin, a detail that sent the internet into an immediate frenzy of speculation, mockery, and disbelief. 50 Cent wasted absolutely no time responding. He addressed the new documentary head-on, making his position unmistakably and unapologetically clear. He is fully prepared, he has no intention of dialing anything back, and he is just getting started. His response carried a charged, confrontational tone that left little room for interpretation. This wasn't a defensive reaction. It was a declaration. A signal to everyone watching that he believes the next phase of this saga will cut deeper, hit harder, and reach places the first season never touched. By hinting at unreleased material and unseen angles he claims to have deliberately held in reserve, 50 Cent framed what is coming not as a rebuttal, but as an escalation. A next chapter that, if his message is any indication, will be anything but subtle or restrained. Louder, sharper, more explosive, and by his own promise, impossible to ignore. The question is no longer whether Season 2 will make an impact. The question is whether anyone is truly prepared for what comes next.